Tonight, we check out a British Columbia business that's got some real bones.
And it has to make you laugh.
We join in a celebration of Prince Edward Island folk music.
Tonight we'll sing, tonight we'll shout, Prince Edward Island.
And in New Brunswick, one man's quest to save lives at sea.
I said I'm going to do something about this that I would have succeeded in doing it.
Stories of the people across the land. Here we are on the road again.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Acadian shore of New Brunswick. You know, just feeling this wind and watching these waves, you can only begin to imagine what it must be like at sea when a storm blows up. The ocean can be a violent and unforgiving place. You only have to think of the Ocean Ranger to realize that. But one man here in New Brunswick is convinced that the loss of life at sea is often avoidable, and he has an invention that he hopes will prove that. It's a cold, blustery day, and Vincent Thériault is heading out to sea. He has something to prove, both to himself and to a group of local fishermen and a few of their friends who've come along for the ride. Vincent used to make his living out on the sea, but that doesn't mean he feels comfortable out here. 24 years ago, he was caught in a vicious winter storm that threatened to sink his ship.
45-foot wave, 85-mile-an-hour wind, and that thing was rocking so badly, like, you know, I said, boy, anytime now we could go over. It would have been the end of us. We were 13 people aboard and never have found one survivor.
His ship managed to stay afloat, but Vincent had had enough. He changed professions, and from New Brunswick to Alberta, he worked as a carpenter, miner, and driller. Then, 12 years ago, after he'd moved home again, Vincent had another brush with death. He was on standby for an offshore oil rig job when the oil rig went down.
Ocean Ranger, Jack, are you there? Can you give us anything else on it right now?
We're listing badly, and we need to get the people off the rig and the bodies.
In a makeshift office, Vincent began a one-man inquest into the Ocean Ranger disaster. He wanted to know why it was that the so-called lifeboats had failed to save any lives.
After the Ocean Ranger went down, I said, I'm going to try to do something about this. This makes no sense at all. Like, I mean, we're going to the moon and coming back. Why couldn't we keep people dry and warm for a few hours waiting for rescue? Eh? That day, the Ocean Ranger went down. I stood up and hit my fist on the table, and I said, I'm going to do something about this that I wouldn't have succeeded in doing it.
Vincent went from his office to the wharf in nearby Caraquet to try to figure out exactly what was wrong with the design of what a lot of people were using as lifeboats. For one thing, most are open, which is fine if the seas are calm, but not much good if the seas are high, with waves breaking overhead. The other problem is strength. Most lifeboats, like those launched from the Ocean Ranger, simply break apart if they smash against something like a piece of the oil rig. Vincent decided he had to start by completely reinventing the lifeboat.
Don't need to be a genius or have an education at all to be able to find simple solution to complicated problems. It's just common sense and logic. That's all what it is.
Vincent's inspiration, one of nature's most brilliant designs, something that's been around since before the dinosaurs and is still around, the egg. The shell is thin, just a few millimeters of calcium, but the shape of the shell distributes any stress or shock evenly, and that protects what's inside. Vincent's first step, build an egg-shaped model so people could see what this odd-looking new boat of his would look like. The fact that he only had a grade 8 education and no experience as an engineer or marine architect didn't worry him in the least. He had faith in his design, and his next step was to go out and spread that faith. The response was so encouraging that in the fall of 1982, Vincent built and tested his first full-size prototype. Things went well at first, but eventually a crack appeared in the hull. Prototype number 1 ended up as a play structure for Vincent's nephews and nieces. For Vincent, this was just a temporary setback.
How many times did plane crash before we finally were able to travel people in the air? Huh? Same story, like, you know, if you think you got a good idea, it doesn't matter how many times you crash or you smash it, you're gonna keep going.
Vincent built another prototype and called it the Esperanto, after the international language. The French verb espérer means to hope, but by 1985, Vincent was starting to lose hope. He knew he needed expert help to make his lifeboat better, but none of the experts were listening.
Did you write a letter to the Department of Transportation or the Coast Guard or any of the people who would understand the sea?
Truckloads.
He wrote letters all right, but if he got an answer back at all, it was to say that no one was interested in his new lifeboat design.
Do you ever want to give up? Do you ever get tired?
One time, yes, I was really, like, you know, I was down the drain, I at bottom of the hole, no money, and debt are high and the funds are low, and I started burning most of my stuff, and when I got down to the scaled-down model I have there, I said, I can't do this. So I just kept going.
You almost gave up and burned it.
Almost. Once.
It was Vincent's family who got him going again. His brother Reginald lent him the money he needed to finish prototype number 2. One of his sisters and his mother chipped in too. And in 1990, the Esperanto 2 was ready for testing. The big orange egg was launched via cable from the top of an 80-foot cliff. The Esperanto 2 was a lot stronger than number 1. In fact, Vincent had come up with a practically uncrackable egg.
Try it.
Okay.
As hard as you can. Harder, harder.
Harder than that?
As hard as you can. Harder yet.
Prototype number 2 was strong.
No kidding.
But one final step had to be taken before the Esperanto could hit the market. Last year, in a professional boat-building shop in Caraquet, with the expert help he'd been waiting for 11 years, Vincent's lifeboat was finally refined and rebuilt. The Esperanto looks better than ever. But now there's a sense of urgency in the air. There are other people designing and building radically different lifeboats. The question is, who's going to get to the market first? Which brings us back to the reason Vincent Thériault is heading out to sea on this blustery day. He wants to prove to anyone who listened to him that his egg-shaped lifeboat is better than any lifeboat they've ever seen.
Correct, Vincent, c'était bon?
OK.
Puis à part de ça, tout va bien, pas de problème, on doute, on est confortable, il fait chaud, puis la mer est belle.
Inside, it's warm and dry. Outside, well, it doesn't matter what the wind and water do. This egg has been designed to stay afloat no matter what.
Well, it looks good. Seems very solid.
C'est tough.
Okay.
Bonne affaire. Good.
It's hard to say what'll happen next. There are questions about patents and permits that still have to be solved before Vincent and his new partners can go into production. Vincent is sure of one thing, though. Someday, his big orange egg will be out here at sea, doing just what he dreamed it would do, saving lives.
It's a long road for you.
Long road. Long, long road.
Almost there.
Almost there. but not there yet.